Hey everybody, it's me, your host, Dash Ireland, for another wonderful episode of Dash's Call where I'm getting into more serious stuff. I do want to explain, like A1, um, now this is kind of a sensitive topic for some people. And just know, I'm not a bigot or a fascist. I'm trying to facilitate discussion, these are my own views, and I really don't hate A1. So that just disproves A1 calling me a bigot or a fascist, because I'm not. I'm open to other views. I seriously am. And it's kind of a trigger warning almost for people. And so it's a sensitive topic. And it shouldn't be. It should just be real simple, facilitated discussion. And I'm going to insert my opinion. And it doesn't mean I'm hateful or anything, because that goes against my Christian ideals. Okay. And I've had to argue with this with people before. And I got in an argument with a kid once. I said this in the last video about PC culture. And this person was like, go on and tell people now that you hate transgender people. And that's not true. I do not hate transgender people. I'm not even transphobic. I'm not even phobic of people. It's just I have a simple disagreement that I don't believe that there are more than 2 to 3 genders. I really don't. I think that all this gender spectrum stuff is a bunch of BS. Okay? Like, this is not coming from the fact that I was raised Christian and conservative and became a libertarian. This is just from a scientific and logical standpoint thing with rationality. There's like, but with this stuff, it kind of starts out where I'm talking about something that's alarming to me, and then it gets into the debate how there are only 2 to 3 genders. And why I say 2 to 3 is because we know the main two genders, male and female. However, there's a third gender, but is very extremely rare in occurrence, and that is called hermaphrodite slash intersex. It's very rare, just like Klinefelter syndrome. That is XXY. That's an addition of another sex chromosome. It's extremely rare, and it's an abnormality. Now, one thing I consider alarming is how many transgender people and trans kids have, well, supposedly trans kids, have been diagnosed with autism. And I don't like this because I think that students going to put a bad name and a new stereotype on autism. As we all know, the way our culture is makes stereotypes. Like, with so many things that have happened in the past, there have been so many harmful stereotypes. Like, a lot of people thinking that black people are thieves when that's obviously not true. It's a stereotype. Just like another stereotype that women are weak. No, you're only weak if you make yourself weak, okay? And now, if you haven't heard from me before, I have Asperger's syndrome. I'm on the autism spectrum myself. And I don't want my disability being affiliated or associated with something that's, in my opinion, a mental illness. Why would it be considered a mental illness? Because it's gender dysphoria, in which you view yourself as something you're not. It's just like body dysmorphia, where bodybuilders are the most common people to have body dysmorphia, where they are super jacked and muscular, but they view themselves as if they're wimpy or skimpy or something like that. And they get counseled for that. Another thing is that people are gender dysphoric, the fact that they are willing to mutilate their own bodies for this is signs of self-harm, and that in itself is mental illness. We all consider self-harm part of mental illness. Depression is mental illness. Like, if you see someone with cuts on their arms that are self-inflicted, you would say, hey, I think you need some healing. I think you're a bit sick and that you should get treated for this. But when we're normalizing this with the supposed gender stuff, we're like, oh, that's not mental illness. That's just, yeah. Like, I mean, I know I'm not right in the head because I have autism and whatnot, but I'm not the kind of guy who thinks, huh, maybe I should cut my male appendages off. I'm not like that. Seriously. And to me, it's not normal. And plus, statistics have shown that the rate of people who, like the percentage of people in the population that are transgender is a very low percentage. It's a very small minority. The majority of people are just male and female like you and me. If, well, pretty much everyone's male and female except for the intersex people that I mentioned. And anyways, I've had to deal with all sorts of stereotypes ever since I was diagnosed, like the whole IQ debate with autism, saying that you're either super smart or either super dumb with autism, or that you always flap your hands, when that's obviously not true. IQ is independent of autism. And I'd rather someone insult my intelligence than insult my sanity. Like, in my opinion, um transgender stuff is gender dysphoric, and that deals with mental health and whatnot. Like, I'd rather have someone insult my intelligence and my ability to do stuff than to be called gender dysphoric. I don't want that stereotype going around because it's just gonna really hurt the view of autism. I've always been someone who's fought to like give a better view for autism. After all, I've had to put up with so many years of stereotypes and whatnot. Oh yeah. Many are going to disagree with me this, and they're allowed to disagree, and I'm allowed to say this because this is simply my opinion, and I've been saying that. And people are going to think, oh, you're bigoted towards LGBT, and I'm not. And I could just, and whenever they're going to accuse me of something, I could just easily call them, hey, you're ableist against autistic people. But I'm not like that. I don't use crutches. I don't believe in that type of stuff. Okay? And I don't even speak hate, like, because I don't hate anyone. I'm just very, very critical of certain views. And there's nothing wrong with being critical of views. It happens all the time. I'm very critical of my own religion. I happen to be mostly critical towards the Baptist Church because I've had problems with them. Okay? So, it's okay to be critical of opinions. It's wrong to be hateful towards opinions or intolerant or try to shut them down just because you disagree. That's wrong. However, you're allowed to have an open discussion about why you disagree. That's the great thing about this country. And like I said, I'm not hateful. I'm not intolerant towards opinions. I've had thousands of debates in my lifetime. I've enjoyed facilitating discussion with so many people, even some of the members of the Broad Culture team. We discuss this kind of stuff. It's normal. And we have civil debates, and it's a great thing. And we do choose to disagree, but we agree on that premise that we can disagree and we all have our own views. That's how it is. That's how it's going to stay. Now, as I was saying before, like, autism is proven to be a spectral disorder independent from IQ. However, gender is not a spectrum. Let me tell you something about gender and how it's linked with mental disorders. Autism, bipolar, and ADHD are some of the most popular mental disorders that are heavily biased on gender. Males are 4 times more likely than females to be diagnosed with autism. Boys with ADHD are more likely to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder than girls. That's proof that this is all chromosomal, because sex is determined by sex chromosomes, where girls are XX and boys are XY. That's biology. And a lot of these disorders, they're more in abundance upon a sex chromosome. I mean, the fact that there are girls with it doesn't mean it's all dependent on the Y chromosome. It's mainly in, yeah, it's in the chromosomes. I'm not going to try and get into this because I'm going to start sounding like an idiot. But this is basic biology. Like I said, the existence of intergender is extremely rare. Intergender occurs from mutations, deletions, and additions of the sex chromosome. It happens when the sex chromosome deviates from a normal structure, or part of it gets deleted, or there's an addition of an extra chromosome. Klinefelter's is a great example of what it is, an XXY. But they would still be considered male because they have male appendages, okay? It's mainly that males are determined by XY. It's that Y chromosome that determines it. And hermaphrodites are the only other gender aside from male or female. And we know this, that it's rare, okay? It's the only third gender because the only one where both reproductive systems are present. There's no entirely new reproductive system. And gender is basically based on the term of genital or genesis, where the beginning is. I wouldn't say genesis, but it does deal with genitalia. And that's what's shown that male and female brains are very much different biochemically, as they're strongly different hormones that are dominant in each body. And when and there are times when the wrong hormone starts to dominate. For example, my cousin, she recently said that she had a high amount of testosterone in her body and that she needed to get rid of that, which that is acknowledged as a problem. And that is a problem. And something to point out about gender is this post that I saw from iHypocrite, which iHypocrite screenshots a lot of these articles and posts that show the irony of either sides of the political spectrum because it criticizes both the left and the right. Just like I'm critical of both the left and right. Like I said, while it's mostly seen I'm critical of the left, I'm also highly critical of the right. I've seen problems with it because the left and the right, they're basically just the same thing, but with different mind. They both have the same exact mindset, just very different views on how things should go. And if you don't see how this is, then you're not acknowledging a problem. And the best way to acknowledge problems are to facilitate this discussion. And if I were to be shut out for discussing my views on gender, then nothing's ever going to get done. Okay? I've been I've been really inspired by Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro to talk about this stuff because I've been watching their videos a lot lately. I love Steven Crowder's Change My Mind series because it really facilitates that discussion. It's a great thing. Now, anyways, back to what I'm trying to say about how and iHypocrite screenshotted this post of how the set of parents were trying to keep their kids away from gendered products. Like they wanted to keep their sons away from male gendered products and keep their daughters away from female gendered products. However, no matter how hard they tried, their boys went to boy gendered products and their girls went to girl gendered products. And it's really the inclination based on instinct of the gender. And people are going to be like, oh, gender is different from sex. I mean, in a way, our representation of sex, I mean, there's kind of some in there, but when it comes down to what genitalia you have, it's not different, in my opinion. And like I said, this is biologically what people are inclined to do, and this is different from sexuality. Because gender is not a spectrum, but sexuality is a spectrum. Gender is just concrete what it is. Like there's no such thing as a different amount of plugs that you can plug into the outlet. There's male and female plugs. And if you try to put a male plug with another male, like turn a male plug into a female plug, it's not going to work out very well. I know this is a bad analogy, but I'm just trying to make a point across. And like I said, sexuality is very different. Sexuality is sexual feelings. It's an animalistic thing. And sexuality, it's very complicated, kind of, because you got heterosexual, which is strong sexual feelings for the opposite sex. Homosexual, strong sexual feelings for the same sex. Bisexual is strong sexual feelings towards both sexes. And then pansexual, that's I can't even explain that, okay? Because the moment it gets away from standard stuff, it starts turning into utter BS. Now, asexual is a thing, but that's also rare. Because my cousin claims to be asexual. And asexuality is where you don't feel sexual feelings at all. And then there's me who's demisexual, who has to have a bond or a connection before feeling sexual feelings. And this is actually something that's in high occurrence in people with autism. Like, a person with autism is is highly likely to be demisexual or asexual. And this is something that's been noticed. And it shows there's that chemical link of sexualities and how hormones and whatnot affect them, brain chemistry and whatnot. However, gender cannot be something, it's not an idea. It's straight up biology. You can't just suddenly decide, oh, I am the opposite sex. No, it's not like that. And no matter like how much you try to like change yourself to look like the other gender, you're still going to be your gender. Just very, what's the word? Um, I can't remember the word. It looks very starts with a D. It's like dis something. It looks very distorted. That's the word. Distorted. You would have a very distorted body, but you still have the body of a male, even though you're viewing yourself as something you're not. And a man can't be a woman, or a woman can't be a man. Like, a man's physical structure is very different from a woman's. Even I'm even talking about reproductive system. A man can't become a woman because they don't possess a uterus, ovaries, or true vagina. In biology, females are the only sex that can be impregnated because they have those ovaries. They have the uterus to house a baby. And that's standard. But if a man tries to become a woman, they don't have those reproductive organs. So therefore, they cannot get pregnant, meaning that they are not female. And same goes for a woman. Now, you can't really say anything about breasts because it determines hormones really affect breast development. Like in a normal male person, they don't really have outward breasts that grow to a size like women do. And if they do, it's known as a hormone problem. Like hormone injections do that, which I think are a problem. Even many medications uh, do that. Like ADHD medications have been known to cause gynecomastia, and that's a problem with boys. So you can't really bring into the argument of breast size at all. That's like one of the things you really can't. And a woman can't become a man as they don't possess sperm or possess a pair of testicles. When it comes to gender reassignment surgery, a man trying to transition into a woman has their they have their testicles removed and they have their male appendage sliced up and turned into a pseudo vagina. This is something that is known described. Meanwhile, when a woman tries to transition to a man, they have this device made and they take a piece of skin from the forearm to turn it into a pseudo penis, but they still don't have testicles, and they have breast tissue removed so that they don't have normal female breasts, so that they look more like a man. But all in all, they're still going to be women. And something to prove that this gender is a biological construct and not social is the fact that they have to have continuous hormone injections. Because if they suddenly stop, the hormone that dominated them as their natural born gender takes over again. Like if you're continuously taking testosterone and then you suddenly stop, the estrogen starts to produce once again and it cancels out the effects of the testosterone to a certain point. And it really shows that it's not interchangeable. You cannot just really do that. And people are like, but what about the suicide rates? I mean, yeah, there's a high suicide rate, which can also say how much, in my opinion, transgenderism is a mental illness. And they're saying, like, oh, after the hormone injections and the surgeries, they feel much better about themselves. But when the statistic in the data shows this claim, it's only a very small percentage, so it's really not affecting them that much whatsoever. And there's also talks about like transgender children, which I think that if you have a transgender child, you should be charged with child abuse because these children are too young to be making decisions. Um, for example, and this is a really egregious example. It's really disturbing, where this kid named Desmond, who's autistic, um, is supposedly transgender. Like, because let's be honest, having a transgender child is like having a vegan cat. We know who's making the decisions, okay? And his parents like have him work at an adult club, which, if you're trying to understand what I'm saying, I'm basically saying strip club. And that's bad because not only is it a crime to let a child into a bar, it's also a crime to exploit a child like that. And they don't understand it's because the freaking PC culture is making it okay to condone these sort of heinous actions. Like normal children, they don't worry about how they view themselves. They don't care about gender stuff. They care about playing with toys. They care about being a kid. Self views come into play whenever puberty hits and when you become a teenager. That's where self concept comes in. Kids don't care about self concept before they're a teenager, okay? And they really can't consent to this. This is why we have age of consent laws when we feel when they can make these sort of conscious decisions. And even then, these kids are further ostracized. And another egregious example of why I believe that transgender children is a bad thing is that there's a show called I Am Jazz where this kid who's born male, who's supposedly transgender, was given a whole bunch of puberty blockers, and this person couldn't even get gender reassignment surgery because their parents just loaded him up on puberty blockers, and he couldn't even get surgery because it's not even fully developed. That is a harmful thing, okay? And I'm sorry if I'm yelling, because this is one of those heated topics, and everyone's going to get heated about it. And honestly, to me, it's a problem, and no one ever wants to show disdain or criticism towards this because they're going to get demonized, and you shouldn't really get demonized whatsoever. And that's wrong if you're shutting people down for others' opinions. That's fascism and bigotry by definition. I gotta see where I'm going on this thread. I'm not going on a religious point of view. I'm going from logic. Okay. And another thing I want to point out with how gender is definitely a biological thing is a story that we know from psychology that occurred somewhere in the 80s or something like that. It happened a couple decades ago. And it showed how this woman gave birth to a set of twins, identical male twins. And a doctor botched the circumcision on one of the twins. And against parental permission, he gave that child gender reassignment surgery to turn him into a girl. And that guy was raised as a girl for so long, but once he started looking at himself, like self-concept and whatnot coming into play at puberty, he felt something was wrong. Like he's not really a girl, that he's intended to be a guy. And he found out the truth, and that led to depression. Like he was already depressed by that. And the depression isn't just from the matter of the fact that this person was turned into a transsexual against will. It's also a familial thing because his twin brother also felt the same way. And transsexual is different from transgender. Transsexual is someone who believes they're another gender and went through so much surgery, but they're still biologically male or female, despite having pseudo genitalia. They're still technically a dude or a girl biologically. And this dude, he grew up and he got married. And he even went through so much to try and turn himself back into a dude, even though he still had a pseudo vagina. And later in his life, after getting married, his twin brother committed suicide. And later in his life, he did too commit suicide. It's very, very unfortunate. And it's just that. And it just shows that this is all biological. It's not social. You can't suddenly choose whether or not you want to be this or that. You got to stick with the hands you've been dealt. Like, I watched a video from Count Dankula where he described 101 genders from Tumblr and whatnot, which it's all BS. They even acknowledge that it's BS. Like, it's just really weird to have those very weird gender ideas. It's stupid, in my opinion. And people are going to say that I'm an a-hole for this, but I'm just speaking my opinion. And I have to say this because, like I said, this is a very, very sensitive topic. And I just don't think people should be shut down for being very critical of other views. I'm very critical of the Baptist church, and I kind of do get shut down a little bit from members in my family that happen to be Baptists, okay? Because I just state views that disagree with them, and they suddenly call me brainwashed when I'm not. I just think for myself. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I was a bandwagoner, I'd probably be for the idea of a gender spectrum, but I'm not. I'm not that way. I don't let feelings get in the way of truth, really, of what science, because I believe in science and Christianity. I'm a man of both. That's actually possible. And people think, oh, you can't be a man of science and both man of Christianity. I mean, technically you can. Okay? And I've always been this guy who's been heavy on the truth, because that's a behavior of autism. So, yeah. Hey, you're going to hear a lot of this stuff. I've had a debate with a lot of people about this stuff, and they're like, no, no. I'm like, why are you denying science? You want us to accept climate change so bad, but you won't even acknowledge this. I mean, climate change is kind of a thing, but it's not as bad as we make it out to be. Like, yeah, climate change is occurring. That's bound to happen. This is a freaking planet we're on that has changing weather patterns. That's known to be a normally occurring thing, but I don't think it's as extreme as people make it out to be. I'm getting off topic. Yeah. This is my opinion about why there's only technically three genders, okay? Like, you can't just suddenly choose what you want to be and then mutilate yourself. Because it's well known in biology that a man's structure, physical structure, has a larger skeleton and a higher amount of muscles. Meanwhile, in a women's structure, that their structure is a lot smaller. They don't have as much muscles, and this is not a sexist thing, this is just a biological thing I'm pointing out, where men have more muscle to carry out more physical things. Women have a better brain chemistry. They're carried out to be smarter than men, basically. And usually is how a lot of women are, how women tend to be smarter than men. More women going to college than men, if I think I'm correct from the statistic. That's not sexism. This is just stuff that's been proven, okay? And so sex and gender are basically the same thing, and they're acknowledging like someone who's born biologically male but wants to be a female. Then you're acknowledging that sex and gender are basically the same thing. And what they don't understand is that they come with the term bisexual, and like, doesn't that admit that there's really only two genders, basically? And then they're suddenly going to get up in arms. Like, I remember debating this one guy. It was in a full discussion about something stupid. I'm like, communism, socialism, and fascism are basically all the same thing with a different name pasted on it to make it sound more appealing. But they are the same thing. They all fall under Marxist views, and they're all Marxist, so they're technically the same thing. And whenever you show this criticism or show an opposing view, they get up in arms and they get super defensive. Like, Lord. And one last thing I want to point out, completely different. This kind of goes to my political correctness discussion from the last episode. I was on Twitter the other day, and Ron Perlman tweeted about the whole Homeland, well, not Homeland Security, but the border security crisis. And he just went on about this stupid stuff about Trump being tied to Russia. Like, it's been proven over and over he's not. And these people are obsessed with it, and they're just further perpetrating what I believe is stupidity, okay? Because there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance is when you don't even know any better and being dumb. Stupid is you know better, but you continue to be an idiot. That's just well known by definition, okay? And Ron Perlman tweeted out, and he just basically continued to insult the president, call him a village idiot. That's not what got me. But he used the term F-tard. And I pointed this out on Twitter. I said, Ron Perlman claims that Trump uses offensive language, but then and will not tolerate. And I said, also, Ron Perlman uses offensive language. And they don't realize such irony. And they think it's okay for them to say it because they don't house these different views. Just because you has a different view does not give you the right to be an asshole, okay? Like, I respect a debate. Like, I can facilitate a good discussion. I won't curse anybody out. I won't call people names or anything. I'll just get down to the point in what I'm trying to say and argue for it. That's how I am. Respect the sanctity of debate, okay? Man, it's got a little too heated and out of hand. But thanks for watching. We are unfortunately out of time for this discussion. I've been your host, Dash Island. This was Dash's call. I hope you'd enjoyed. Like and subscribe to Broad Culture. I will see you next time.